through that career, I was bumping into myself over and over and over again, regardless of the income people made. I worked with medical directors, single mothers of three, blah, blah, blah. And I just realized it was the habits and behaviors and the lack of the basics of what they don't teach in schools, right?
Right.
And then at a certain point, I couldn't live with it anymore because there was too many people on one side of the scale that needed help, and there was other people that you gave them the help and they didn't really appreciate what it is you were doing in the first place.
Right.
So then I was like, you know what? This is how I can be the most service to the most amount of people. I can start a business doing this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was really out of the service of others is really what the genuine motive of it.
Audacians, welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where, of course, our ongoing goal is to help our listeners live their best audacious life ever. And we do that through inspiration and empowerment. It's awesome that you're here with us, and I appreciate you taking time to join us on this journey of self improvement and transformation. Now, just as a skilled conductor leads an orchestra with clarity, precision, and accountability, so too must we approach our own financial goals with clear vision, consistent habits, and unwavering accountability. Like the different sections of an orchestra working together harmoniously, our financial success depends on aligning our habits and behaviors with our goals. Connor Tyson is a dedicated financial coach with a passion for helping individuals achieve financial freedom by focusing on habits and behaviors rather than just the numbers. They're important, but the habits and behaviors really do make a difference. With over 3.5 years of experience in the field, Connor's mission is to empower his clients to take control of their financial lives and create a secure future for themselves and their families. Now, in this episode, Connor shares some valuable insights on how to achieve financial security through clarity, habits, and accountability. His expertise in guiding individuals towards financial independence makes him a relevant and valuable guest on this podcast. So now that we've got the table all set, let's go. Hey, Connor, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time like this, my friend.
Thank you for having me on, Audley. It's awesome. I love the name of the podcast. Everything's good.
Thank you. I know. I appreciate it. Well, listen, it's I think it's a I'm completely blessed to be able to engage in these kind of conversations and encourage individuals to live their best audacious lives ever. And I think by being able to do that, you can knock down all the barriers and achieve all the things that you want. You just got to be able to take that first step. Very similar to the work that you do as a financial coach, is you assist individuals for a little to get on that path of financial freedom, which enables them to live their best audacious lives ever, which is a big part of that. So maybe as a starting point, Connor, I can get you to sort of talk about the work that you do and what's brought you up into this point for our audience.
Yeah. So what brought me up to this point really was I was a financial advisor
Mhm.
for 23, 24 years. And I realized that they don't teach this stuff in schools. And regardless of the income you make, people are trying to build the car driving down the highway. And it's not working out very well I mean, you just look around, right? So then I realized it's really not about the knowledge so much. It's really the habits and behaviors. And
Right.
as a financial advisor, I wasn't compensated to address those things, right? Hold people's hands through processes and encouragement and accountability and follow through. So I got sick and tired of that industry in itself. And I was like, you know what? What can I do to help be the most service to the most amount of people around me, given my background, expertise, knowledge? And I was like, you know what? Be a financial coach. Meet people where they're at, judgment free, and give them the tools and resources they need to get where they got to go.
Right.
And that's it. Put the flag in the ground, became a financial coach, and been doing that now for 3.5 years full time. Love it.
So give me an indication, because it seems I mean, it sounds as if you got into the financial industry for very different reasons than what you're doing now. Like,
Yes, yes. It was
what's the before and after look like?
yeah, it's there's a lot of background here, but it was really, profits over people is what it was, right? I was out
Okay.
for myself and the allure of Wall Street and everything like that. And at a young age, I'm just gonna actually go way back. I realized there was something to this money thing based upon my background and my family and stuff like that. There was a lot of fighting about money. And I took it upon myself to learn everything I could about money.
Hmm.
The point where I went to college and I got a degree in finance. And then I started working down Wall Street. And I looked down at the age of, I was 24 and I had over $90,000 of debt.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh my God, it's really not about the knowledge, it's about the habits and behaviors. And within 15 months became debt free and all that other stuff. But then I kept through that career, I was bumping into myself over and over and over again, regardless of the income people made. I worked with medical directors, single mothers of three, blah, blah, blah. And I just realized it was the habits and behaviors and the lack of the basics of what they don't teach in schools, right?
Right.
And then at a certain point, I couldn't live with it anymore because there was too many people on one side of the scale that needed help, and there was other people that you gave them the help and they didn't really appreciate what it is you were doing in the first place.
Right.
So then I was like, you know what? This is how I can be the most service to the most amount of people. I can start a business doing this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was really out of the service of others is really what the genuine motive of it was.
Funny you talk about how people get in their own ways, and I think that's so true. I mean, you see that in all aspects of their lives where they're doing these things and they don't see them, don't recognize them. Blinders are on, and it's the most detrimental thing, and they just don't realize it.
Yeah, I always say to people, it's like brushing your. I'm a righty, right? So it's like brushing your teeth with your left hand. It's awkward. You don't want to do it. You're used to. You want to revert back to the right hand constantly, and it's like that's what human nature is. Like you've learned about money. You've been doing it for umpteen years this way. This is what your parents taught you. What you observed. You don't know anything different, right? And it's a taboo topic to share with other people around you, and before you know it, you wake up, you're, mid-30s maybe, right? Two kids, two car payments, credit cards, summer camp, oil bills hitting, vacation. What's that? I haven't saved for that in a while. And you get overwhelmed and there's fighting, divorce over it. It happens fast and it's
Yeah.
not their fault. So
Yeah, no, and it's funny because even in some of the examples that you gave, like the expenses that people have, the real life stuff, right? And so it's so although oftentimes it's our habits that get us into the challenge that we have, a lot of things that you touched on are real life stuff. So being able to make the determination of what's really causing the problem, things that we have to deal with, because they're not always the same. Those two, right?
yeah, and there's also clarity as to why you'd want to change in the first place. Right? A lot of people want like between you and me, most people
Sorry,
know
explain. What do
what
you
to
mean, Claire?
do.
Isn't that like if you got isn't the problem enough to want to change?
You would think, but it's like boiling a frog, right? Like you're in hot water, but you're just going to sit in that because you don't know any way out of it. So
Mm,
there's an issue, and you'll quote unquote figure it out, right? That's not in the financial handbook. That's not a chapter like, oh, you'll figure it out.
right.
So it's it's really getting clarity as to what type of relationship you want to have with money moving forward. Realizing you have an issue.
Okay.
Do you want to actually change it? And then clarity as to what, like the audacious life, what is it you truly inspired to have, right? Like the clarity as to your why, not what you need to do. Meaning, like most people know what to do all day.
Right.
Like if you think about it, spend less than I make, avoid debt, save, give. We know this,
Mm,
but somewhere along the road, right, we hit these roadblocks, and it might be habits, it might be peer pressure, it might be society itself, like just marketing to us as to this is what you need to do, and it's really
right.
not the case, right? Perspectives. So what I found is helping people getting really clear on what they want moving forward. Like hit the restart button, use the windshield, not the rearview mirror, right? So you can glance back and at the mistakes that we've all made, beat yourself up about it, but it's not going to help anything. So it's like moving forward. What do you want to? What do you want? What do you want? Right? What you want to have healthy communication around, and no more fighting. You want to be proactive, control, like that sense. It's not like I want to get out of debt. That's not what you want.
Right.
What you want is the feeling of being out of debt. What it would enable
Mm,
you to do. You don't want a budget. You want
right.
that sense of being proactive, in control, less stress. That's what you want, and what that would enable you to do. Right? That's
Right.
that's the missing ingredient in a lot of people's lives that I try to help them with and move forward. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I wonder if you can talk about you mentioned so the people's relationship with money. What can you describe kind of relationships with money that the different types that exist, I guess?
Yeah, so there's a couple different major ways in which people interact with money, right? So one is stress levels, right? So there's high stress and low stress, and there's communication, open communication and closed communication.
Yeah.
And if you can think of a four box, these are like the four major households. You could have high communication and high stress where there's fighting in the kitchen, right? Told you so, Joe, blah, blah, like that stuff, finger pointing. And that's one household chaos, right? And then there's high stress, low communication, like closed. Everybody's walking on eggshells, stressed out, but no one's talking about anything,
Mm,
right? Then you can have closed communication, low stress, where everybody's chill, laid back. You're at the dinner, and all of a sudden the lights go out. Did you pay the light bill?
right.
No. Okay. Right. So like you almost feel like you're lied to in that household. Like there's a lot of secret kind of like no one knows what the left hand is talking to the right hand. No one knows, like
Right.
no coordination. Then you have open communication and low stress. That's the household most people want to get to, where it's open communication, there's budgeting, everybody knows where everything is, there's a process, low stress. Everybody's proactive, not reactive. If there's a tough time in that situation, they
Hmm.
come together, circle the wagons, work through it together. That's the healthy. So those are the four major ones
Right.
of there's many different types of relationships with money, but it really comes down to those four major ones. There's a lot of subsets of that, but
Right.
most people that are listening probably can identify to one of those houses that they came from where it was like, no one really spoke about it. There's a lot of fighting going on. Okay, I was
Sure.
probably from that house, or you know, right?
Right.
And
No, yeah.
yeah,
No, no, I appreciate those distinctions because I think as you're talking, people can clearly say, "Hey, which house or which bucket do I belong in?"
yeah,
And I think once you know that, that can let you know what actions you need, what kind of actions that you need to take, or how drastic your
yeah.
actions need to be.
I call untying the fisherman's knot. You know, it's like a big bundle of fisher wire, and you're like, oh man, do I even want to deal with this mess right now? And like,
Right,
sometimes not, right? And then you just keep going on with the habits and behaviors of what you were taught or observed, and it doesn't really get you out of it. But then when you're ready
right,
to address it, okay, great. Let's work out. Let's hit the restart button.
sure,
What would success look like?
right,
Like this,
right,
let's just daydream for a second. You look back 3 years from now, what would be the ideal situation? And what tools or resources or things you think you need to do to get there? Just
got
suggest,
it.
right? I don't tell them what to do. Everybody's been told what to do.
Hmm.
Right. That's as an advisor, I used to tell people what to do all the time.
Right,
And
right.
I'm about the why and the how, right? Like why even start this journey in the first place?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Why change? Why go through that transformation? Because it like to get out of debt, that's dealing with a symptom, not the disease. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
But
And
even the concept of getting out of debt is interesting. One, Connor, sorry to cut you there, but like it's a degree of debt we're talking about here. I mean, if I have $100 on my Visa card, am I in debt? Well, yeah. Is it manageable? Yeah. If I have 50,000 on my Visa, that's a whole other different story. So
mhm.
it's that debt thing. It's I'm not gonna say subjective, but it comes in different degrees. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it really comes down to do you have the cash flow
Right.
to pay for it? If you do, then you have the ability to handle it. Most
Mm,
people get way out above their, way beyond their skis, right? And they get tipped over going downhill, and
right.
it happens fast. And that's the distinction, right? It's like the
Gotcha.
old joke of like, if you don't have the money to pay for it, don't buy it, right? Ha, ha, ha,
Right.
very funny, but in the world that we live in now, with like instant gratification, we're marketed to all the time. There's a lot of guilt, shame, remorse around this stuff. Like I want to be able to provide for those people in my life, and if I don't, that says something about me, right? And
Right.
like all that stuff where that's really where it comes down to. Like, okay, what do you want to do about it? Is this the
Right.
type of relationship you want to have with money?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
how has that been serving you?
Right. Right.
And if
Yep.
having $200 on your Visa and you paid off at the end of the month because you had the cash flow to pay for it, great. But if you carry a balance, it starts accumulating pretty quickly.
Sure. Sure.
And then life happens and a car breaks down or your job loss or then it throws in a wrench. Now what?
That's right. Yep. Yep. And it's interesting because for although sometimes I would imagine in some people's minds they think the easy fix is just I need more money, but
Yeah.
money isn't the answer to the problems, especially our financial issues. You can have you can throw all the money you want at something, but that doesn't necessarily make the problem go away.
Yeah, it's a symptom of a bigger disease. Like I've clients that have made over $600,000 a year, right? You'd think they would be in a better situation. Nope, it's the same issues as the single mom of three making 60 grand a year.
Mm,
It's the same. It's not about it's funny. There's a book, it's not about the money.
right.
It's not about the money. It's really not. It's perspectives, process, lack thereof, maybe, people, right? Setting boundaries, being able to say no. Those are the things that really determine that over time.
Is
Yeah, money helps,
sure, sure. Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, we know that, right? So all money is just really choice and freedom, right? You have more choices and more freedom. But if you don't have clarity as to what you're going to do with that proactively, or it makes it very, very difficult, right? So I was prey to that,
right.
meaning it's making a certain level of income. Someone offered me a job, $20,000 more a year. That's almost 2 grand extra a month income, right?
Yep.
Guess what? In a year and a half, I was back to paycheck to paycheck. How did that
Mm,
happen?
yeah, yeah.
Right? And it's not being the clarity as to where's that money going to go, the clarity of your principles, values, goals, prioritization of that, and getting ahead of it. Otherwise, life happens.
Is it as simple as just making a budget and sticking to it? Is it that simple?
No, no. There was, right? There's an app for that, right? There's an app for that. If that, I tell that to people too. Like, listen, if it was just budgeting, there's an app for that,
Yeah.
just to help them realize it's way more than just a tool. Like a
Right.
budget is just a tool, a process, right?
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
can realize really quickly, like, yeah, it is a bigger issue than just a budget or a process. It's a bunch of things that go through with that.
Right. I would imagine that you said earlier, meet clients where they're at, right? So imagine you see,
Yeah.
you clients all over the place, and some maybe in a, sort of bad state financially. Um, is it? I want to ask about this. So even the topic
Yeah.
of bankruptcy, right? And at what point does that become a realistic option for individuals?
Realistic. Well, you
Yeah.
don't want to overwhelm the overwhelmed. Most people come and they've tried all these. They've tried a budget. They've tried the debt consolidation program. They've tried and if we go through the process and I give them the tools and resources
Hmm.
and they still can't make ends meet, meaning like we've gone through and we've looked to reduce, eliminate, pause certain expenses in their life for a period of time, and they still can't make those certain payments.
Hmm.
Sure, it's really a last ditch effort,
Hmm.
because bankruptcy it follows you around. It does. It has to be on job applications here in the States. It affects your credit for a long period of time. And again, it's a temporary solution to a permanent problem, just like all these other things. So it's like, I don't know what the statistics are, but I know they're pretty high. And that people that declare bankruptcy usually somewhere down the line find themselves in a very similar situation of that situation, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the real issue. That's the crux of the problem.
Well,
And
yeah,
yeah, so when I've only probably recommended bankruptcy twice,
got you. Got you.
and there's yeah, and part of bankruptcy, number one, bankruptcy is not free. People think it's free, like just something you can do. You have to pay for it. It's usually like $5,000. And part of that bankruptcy proceeding is you need counseling. You need to sit down with somebody and get counseling. So if that's part of the process, you got to pay for it anyway. Like I don't have the money to pay for my bills, but I'm going to pay for bankruptcy a way out. And part of it's the counseling. How about we reverse that? Let's just get the counseling, see if we can get our way out of it, and then hit the restart button moving forward in a healthy manner so we don't have to ever feel like this again.
Yeah, yeah. I think it goes back to those points you made earlier, the clarity, habits, accountability, right? It starts there. And once you kind of get those sort of lined in order, then that kind of at least puts you on the path, not to solve your problems, but certainly puts you on the path, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability and follow through is a big, I think anything that's really important to somebody. Let's say, I don't know, I want to go to the gym, right? I want to get healthy. I'm way
Mhm.
overweight. And A, number one, okay, it's January 1st, New Year's your goal. Talk to me March 18th. Are you still doing it? And the people that are still doing it have clarity as to why they started that journey in the first place. It might have been something outside of themselves, like, I want to spend more time with my kids and have energy. I don't want to end up like my uncle that died of diabetes or a heart attack,
Right.
or, right? And then those people that come, they get gym partners. They have accountability people. They
Mhm.
write down those goals. They visit them on a regular basis. They see their progress. They celebrate their successes. Those are the people that stick with that stuff because it's not easy, right? And that's so you hit on something really big there, which is the accountability piece of a trusted partner that has no skin in the game other than your success
Right.
because you shared that why with them. And if you want to live a very audacious life, you got big goals, right? Some people might snicker and think those are silly, but those are yours. So now let's get after it. I'll
Gotcha.
support you 100%. Let's do it. I love that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I wonder if I don't know. Do you have a success story that you can share?
Yeah, a
Um,
lot of them. I mean,
yeah.
I've saved marriages. I mean,
Oh, wow.
numbers are one thing on a piece of paper and people don't want to relate to it, but I can tell you that the emotions, right? So I met a while back, I say about a year and a half ago, a woman, single woman, right? She was frustrated, overwhelmed, intimidated by their personal finances, and she was living with somebody that was very controlling. And she realized she had the fear of like, if he leaves me,
Right.
I'm basically done.
Right.
And she was like, I can't live like this. So she wanted to learn the basics of like, how do we do this? How do I win with money? Right. And it was like, okay, took her through the process. It's 3 months. It's all 10 sessions and showed her I hate the word budget, right? The B word, a
Sure.
money plan. Let's get a
Mhm.
plan for your money and how to do
Mhm.
this simply, like 15-minute increments of how to manage your money. Tell her where to go versus
Yep.
wondering what to spend.
Yep.
Then it was like eliminating some debts, saving towards things that she knew was coming, like Christmas this year, December 25th, right? We know this. Great. If we know this and we want to spend $1,200 on Christmas, that's probably $100 a month if my math is correct. And
Right.
I'll have the $1,200 cash to pay. So she had these things called sinking funds, and we started saving towards them. Anyway, dreams come true. So do nightmares. Sure enough, there was a split up. She was out on her own. But she had the process in place. And within 6 months, she was able to buy her own place with her
Beautiful.
16-year-old daughter.
Beautiful.
And that's that's not numbers. That was security, peace of mind. I'm going to
Yep.
be okay.
Hmm.
That's a huge transformation from the woman I met, it was like 18, a little over 18 months ago,
Wow.
where, wow, yeah, imagine if she never went through this and never decided I need to do this for myself.
Sure. Sure.
Right.
So,
But I've
so
also had numbers wise, yeah, I've had people pay off hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what it's really about, right? If it's a numbers game, there's always someone with worse or better numbers than you. You do it for the inner sanctum of like, this is really what I want. And this area is no longer causing me friction in all the other gears of my life: health, stress, communications, relationships with others, right? And that's where it really starts. That's the stuff that matters, I think.
yeah. No, no, I think it's fantastic. And then I think and behaviors too is a part of that too. Like sometimes you gotta make some adjustments in your behavioral and change. But I think those are all positive things, right, to do. You said the expression "how to win with money," and I like the way it sounds. Could you give me a definition of what that means when you say how to live with money?
It's
What
your
does that mean?
definition. Yeah, yeah. It's your definition. My definition is different than yours, right?
Okay.
But mine is to have financial security for me and my family and teach my kids principles and values of how money works and how it could work for them. If they're always working for money, I'm doing something wrong. I want them to understand that money can work for them.
Got you.
right? So it takes work in the beginning, and once you hit a certain point, you can actually have money work for you, so then you can work less. And they they're young, they're 7 and 10 years old. And yeah, I've taught them like you can save, spend, and give. We have three piggy banks. So, and they come to ask me for things, and like instead of me giving them money, I was like, oh, it sounds like you need some money. You know where you go when you need money? So where? I'm like, to work, and they know they've equated work with money in the beginning, right? And saving it for the future, and
Yep.
that's success for me. Communication. I haven't fought. Me and my wife get together for 15 minutes a month, and we plan out the month ahead. There's no
Mhm.
fights. We have certain principles that we operate with money as a team. But for other people, it's really what is it they want,
Yes.
and get really clear on that. It's not the level, the surface level. You got to go
Yep.
down a couple roots on this and get to what's really the most important thing into your life and why is that important. Um, Another success story I can tell you real quick to kind of illustrate this is I had a woman, she's like, I'm working two jobs
Hmm.
and I want to get out of debt, right? Okay, I'm working two jobs. Okay, why is that important to you? She's like, well, I'm missing my kids' basketball games. So, okay, why is that important to you? Well, one of my guiding principles in life is family. And I feel like I'm violating that.
Mm.
I'm not living up to what I want. Ooh, I feel like an imposter. Now we're getting somewhere, right? So now through habits, behaviors, and sticking with it for a while, she can do what she wants to do when she wants to do it. And living in line with clarity of her principles and values and just aligning her money with that. Like you show me your budget, I'll show you what's important to you.
Right. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the clarity piece, right? Does that make sense?
Mm.
So her definition, I think winning with money is when you know when you're winning and when you're losing with money, right? And whatever that definition is for you, I don't define it for people, but I help them get to that.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. It I think the work that you're doing is fantastic because you're really certainly opening up people's eyes to the education piece, but then also holding them again, we talk about the clarity, habits, and accountability, holding those three, I guess, pillars, if you will, in mind, because you're then laying a foundation for creating a new cycle or a new set of behaviors, and that will do wonders not only for just the individuals but generations after. So
Yeah,
that's
you can
a
change whole
fantastic
family
thing.
trees on this deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah. No,
beautiful thing.
that's fantastic.
And you
All
can
right.
become the go-to person.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
another transformation I've heard before. Like, I want to be that person that people turn to
Yep,
for money advice.
yep, yep.
You're like,
No, that's
that's awesome.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Listen, Connor, I certainly love the insights and love the information that you shared for individuals that wanted to learn more about the work or even work with you or and maybe get your help. Where can you send them?
Yeah, so my website is progress. I want to make some progress. FFC, so it's financial coaching, progressfc.com. That's a good place. It explains what I do, how I do it. And there's everybody gets a 45-minute complimentary consultation conversation like this.
Yep.
And yeah, and see if there's a good fit and hear your why and see if I want to get behind it. And if we do,
Yes.
then we're gonna get it, right? I'll become your biggest cheerleader. They
Amazing.
can also meet on Facebook, Connor the Financial Coach,
Yep.
um, Connor. What else? That's it. You can visit my website. I have a phone number. It's all on there.
Amazing. So we're gonna make sure that all your contact details available for the show notes,
Yeah.
and that way, if you know people can connect with you directly. I want to thank you, Connor, for doing this and appreciate the work that you're doing because you are changing generations for sure. Um, yeah, yeah, that's awesome stuff, man. Thank you for doing this. It's a lot of fun and really
Yeah, it
insightful
is.
stuff today, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Be well. Back we are here on the podcast, and thanks, Connor, for being here. I really appreciated especially those illustrations that you shared of people who he's helped make a difference for. It's really, really powerful stuff. The key to financial success lies not in the numbers, but in our habits and behaviors. By developing a clear vision, establishing positive financial habits, and holding ourselves accountable, we can create a solid foundation for achieving our financial goals and living a fulfilling life. Listeners, if you found value in Connor's insights and are looking to take control of your financial future, I'd encourage you to connect with him directly. You can find Connor's contact details in the show notes below, and he's offering a complimentary consultation to start your journey towards financial freedom. So I certainly encourage you to take advantage of that. In addition, Connor's got a bunch of free tools and resources on his website to support you on your financial journey. And again, I'd encourage you to check those out and see how he can offer, perhaps change your financial habits and transform them into something wonderful. Now, I really need to thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living podcast, being here. It's been a great episode. And if you've enjoyed it, please like, follow, subscribe, share if you haven't already done so, because that's how we make this thing grow. Together, let's inspire each other to live our best audacious lives. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.